白人の割合が 36.8?
はい、イギリス人のですね。
はい。いや、もっと多いと思ってたから、パーセンテージって割合は少ないかなと僕は思いました、今聞いて。
3分の1にまで減りましたらどう思いますか？
大変なことやなって、驚く、びっくりする。はい、大阪でも結構旅行者、サイトシーイング観光で来ている人はええけど、住んでる人はそんなに多くないと思うんです。でだからどないか3割言うたらもう会う人がほとんどもう外国人の方になったら、日本って大丈夫かなって。
Hello there, everyone. It's been an interesting few days here in Japan, and that's because of a proposed initiative that has poured gasoline on the cultural sensibilities of the Japanese people and lit a match. What I'm talking about is the recent news of the Japan International Cooperation Agency's, and that's JICA, its Africa Hometown Initiative, a plan to pair 4 Japanese cities with African nations for what they called a cultural exchange. And it should be noted that JICA is the governmental agency that implements the bulk of Japan's official development assistance, or its ODA, to support the economic and social growth in developing countries. However, like a lot of government agencies around the world, JICA is a bit tone-deaf and tried to pitch it to the Japanese people as a diplomatic win, but in reality it triggered an instant tsunami of public outrage over fears of African immigration into the country. And what was the overall result? An instant and spectacular implosion of the plan. So then, let's unpack this bold misstep, this firestorm it unleashed, and why it got buried. Before we do dissect that and this diplomatic fumble, let's talk about staying vibrant to tackle the big and twisting issues. And those twists, well, for some of you at least, might include feeling drained or foggy, at least some of the time, and it might be the result of poor blood flow. And that's why Blood Flow 7 by Juvenon has got you covered with natural ingredients like nitrosogen, S7, and transresveratrol. It's doctor-formulated, scientifically backed, as it boosts nitric oxide by 230% in just 3 hours, which means relaxing blood vessels to get oxygen and nutrients flowing to your brain, heart, muscles, and beyond. 1 daily dose and you'll feel energized, sharp, and vibrant again. I've taken it before workouts and I'm really noticing improved stamina. So find out for yourself. Give Blood Flow 7 a try and feel the difference where it matters most, inside your veins. To find out more, go to www.bloodflow7.com/black or click on the link in the description below to learn more today. On the 21st of August at the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Yokohama, JICA announced a plan to designate 4 cities as symbolic hometowns for African nations. In Ehime Prefecture for Mozambique, in Chiba for Nigeria, in Niigata with Ghana, and in Yamagata with Tanzania, calling them Little Africas. The idea was to foster cultural ties through exchanges, think student visas, volunteer programs, maybe some baseball clinics. JICA framed it as a way to revitalize Japanese rural areas, where the working age population has crashed to about 60% as of 2024. Ambitious, sure, however, tone deaf to the realities of the Japanese people and their sensibilities. But here is where the proverbial bomb detonated. Misinformation out of Africa reached Japan and spread like wildfire on steroids through social media. In that, African media like the Tanzania Times with its headline, "Japan designates Nagai City to Tanzania," mangled the translation. The Japanese word sasageru, meaning dedicate, got twisted on social media into sacrifice or hand over. Nigeria's government then poured gasoline on this fire, posting, and then to their credit deleting, a claim that Kisa Razu would offer special visas for Nigerian workers. An ex-post then screamed that Chiba was seriously considering handing over the city to Africans, and this post hit 4.6 million views. The narrative being that these cities were about to become little Africas flooded with immigrants. Thus, cue the absolute pandemonium. Nationwide, but especially in the cities affected, the Japanese public didn't just get upset, they erupted in apocalyptic fury. City offices were slammed with complaints, with thousands of calls and thousands of emails for days, with the staff drowning in the deluge. Posts on platforms like X were not kind, with the thought of their towns being transformed along the lines of most towns and cities in the Western world. Quote, "Who's responsible if immigrants overrun our towns?" Or, "Our cities will become African colonies." Closed quote. The venom, malice, bile, and contempt was raw, and much of it was, let's be honest, blatantly xenophobic, which taps into Japan's 98.1% ethnic homogeneity, as well as its suspicion of its 3% foreign population, especially non-Asians. But the mayhem, or coordinated mayhem in this case, went even further, with Google Maps pranks labeling Sanjo's City Hall as Ghana City Hall and Kizarazu's as Nigeria City Hall. This wasn't just anger, it was a cultural panic attack. And more to the point, many Japanese have seen the absolute disaster that has unfolded in Western countries with similar policies and refuse to allow the same thing to happen in the only homeland that they will ever have. But why this reaction? Many people, especially in the West, would ask, as many in the West believe that immigrants are fundamentally necessary to keep the lights on and a country running. And if Japan's demographic crisis, that being an aging population and low birth rates, well, they do believe that it will spell the doom of any country that does not open the gates. But hold that thought, because last year, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, which is the largest pool of investment capital on the planet, well, he stated at the World Economic Forum that the big winners in the future will be developed countries that have shrinking populations and that have xenophobic immigration policies.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. You know, we always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. These large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking demographics. These countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. We'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations.
Moreover, to add to that, an August 2025 Cornell University study entitled Demographic Decline and Economic Prosperity, a Critical Examination, well, it argued that fears of a declining population often stem from oversimplified economic models and have more to do with political agendas, not evidence. It says long-term prosperity hinges on education, skills, and technology, not just headcount. Moreover, in Japan, the fear of fewer people, weaker economy, is something that the majority of people are ready to accept if it means keeping Japan Japanese. The idea of mass African immigration into Japan, even hypothetical, hit the country like a sledgehammer, stoking anxieties about cultural erosion, crime, and strained resources. Far-right groups like Sanseito, which rode a Japan First wave, amplified this and stunned the country in its showing in the recent election. For his part, Valentine Hosogawa, a Nigerian-Japanese ex-boxer, well, he warned that Japan could face chaos 100 times worse than the long-simmering tensions with its large Kurdish population in Saitama Prefecture. By the 27th of August, JICA and the cities and prefectures that are involved were in full crisis mode, with mayors posting on social media, "We did not ask to accept migrants or ease visa rules," or clarifying, "No plans to accept immigrants from Ghana, period," as well as calling the rumors regrettable and mourning damage to Tanzania ties. In the end, Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi squashed visa claims, stating no plans for special visas or immigration. JICA, for its part, begged African media for retractions, with Nigeria backtracking on its visa post, but the outrage was unstoppable. And as of late August, the Africa Hometown Initiative has been effectively killed. Not officially cancelled, but smothered by public fury and political pressure. So in the end, what do we have? JICA's plan was a diplomatic olive branch that absolutely misjudged Japan's cultural wiring. The Cornell study, as well as Larry Fink at BlackRock, reminds us that demographic fears are often politically charged myths. But in Japan, they're taken as gospel. And the Little Africa's Panic of this month exposed a very raw nerve in Japan, which is a society that is very, very much protective of its 97% ethnic core, that even symbolic ties to Africa sparked a nationalist meltdown. As the rage was clear, and it was visceral, rooted in a fortress-like national identity that anyone who has spent any time here will tell you is true. While African misinformation did light the fuse, it was the explosion that was fueled by deep-seated resistance to immigration into Japan, as this was a masterclass in not how to pitch a policy, and a warning that good intentions don't survive bad optics. So what do you think? Give me your thoughts or your questions or whatever else you'd like in the comment section below. And as always, I'd like to say thank you for being here, and check to see that you are still subscribed, as many people are unsubscribed by YouTube without their knowledge or consent. If you'd like to help the channel, it'd be very much appreciated. Again, ways of doing so are in the description. Also remember to check out my sponsor for today's video, Bloodflow 7, and their amazing products that can help you be as healthy as you can. With that, I'll say thank you and bye for now.